In this presentation, you will learn how to use the update statement. The update statement is used to modify or change an existing record in the table. We previously did the insert statement. With the insert statement, we were adding a new record into the table. But with the update statement, the record is already in the table. We are now changing information that is already inside of the table. So if we look at the syntax, the update statement, the keywords here is update and set. So here we say update and we specify the table name. And set, we are changing a value for a particular field or column. So we say set the field name equals, and you change the value that you want to give to the new field. If you are changing multiple values, you use a comma and then you specify the second field equals and then the value you want to give it, comma, and you can update as many fields as you want to. That's the compulsory part, update and set. The where is optional. It doesn't have to be there. But when you use the where, you are bringing in a restriction or a condition. So you have to be very cautious if you are using the update and the set on its own. If you're using the update and set on its own, it means an update is taking place to all the records in the table. You may want that to be the case, which is fine. You can then write your update using just the update and the set. However, if you want to only change one particular record, then you are going to need the where. If you're going to want to change some of the records, you will still require a where with a different type of a condition. But if you want to change all the records, then it will just simply be update and set. Just a reminder again, our table is TBR actors, and you should be familiar by now. These are all the fields: actor ID, actor name, actor surname. The date of birth, age, cell number is local, and the annual earnings. So these are the fields that we are going to be referring to. In this presentation, I'm going to show you how to change just one specific record. We'll look at how to change some of the records, and also we'll look to see how we can change all the records as well. So let's look at the first example. Change the annual earnings for actor ID 2, and we want to change the annual earnings to 105,000. So actor ID 2 has a particular annual earnings, but we would now need to edit or change this to 105,000. So how would we go about doing something like that? So we will say update and set. So those are our keywords: update, set. Update, table name is TBR actors. Set the field. The field we want to change is annual earnings, and we want to set it to the value of 105,000. But this needs to be done just for one particular record, which is actor ID equals 2. More often than not, if you're changing just one particular record, then your where will be based on your primary key. Actor ID is our primary key. So when we refer to actor ID 2, there is only one record with actor ID 2, and the annual earnings will be changed accordingly for that particular record. Let's look at the second example. We want to change again for actor ID 2 This time around, we don't want to just change the annual earnings, but there's been a change in his cell phone number. So we want to change his annual earnings and his cell phone number. How do we go about doing something like that? Remember, update. The keywords is update and set. So we will say update TBL actors, set. There's the field, annual earnings. We set it to 105,000, comma, because there's two fields that we are changing. The second field is cell number. Because of the space, we're using square brackets, equals, and because the cell number is a text, we need to enclose that between double quotes. And this needs to be done for actor ID equals 2. So it's this specific actor ID where the annual earnings and the cell number will change. In the next example, we want to increase the annual earnings of all the local actors by 5%. So we have annual earnings for all of the actors, but we want to increase the current value by 5%. So we want to take its current value and add 5% to that. So how would we go about updating the records in this instance? Keep in mind that it needs to be done only for the local actors, not for everybody. So again, update set, update TBL actors, set. Now let's change the value. Now here we're doing a calculation. So you have to understand how the calculation works out. This part, we are getting the 5%. Here we get the 5%, 0.05, that's 5 divided by 100. And we're taking that and multiplying it to the annual earnings. So this gives us 5%. But the question says increase. We need to increase the annual earnings by 5%. Now that we've worked out 5%, we need to take that and add it to its current value. So take the current value and add 5% to that. And that result, once you get that result is now set back to the annual earnings field. But this should only take place for the local actors, not for everybody. So here you're going to set where is local equals true, and that's going to work for the local actors only. Let's look at the next example. Here we want to increase the annual earnings of all the records by 5%. So again, we want to increase the annual earnings, but we want to do it for all the records. We want to do it for all the records. Increase the annual earnings of all the records by 5%. So there's no restriction in this particular example. Here we will then say update TBL actors, set annual earnings equal to annual earnings plus the 5%. So it's pretty much exactly the same as the previous example, but there's no where. So in this particular example, we are changing or we are increasing the annual earnings by 5. And this effect will take place for every record that is in the table. Well, that's pretty much it when it comes to an update and how you would go about performing an update. And in this particular section, I leave you with this quote. When something is important enough, you do it, even if the odds are not in your favor. And you should be familiar with Elon Musk, and those were his words.